Hi, this is Father Jim Martin. I'm a Jesuit priest and author of the book Between Heaven and Mirth, Why Joy, Humor, and Laughter Are at the Heart of the Spiritual Life. And I'm here in another of our continuing series on Jesus and joy. You know, we often think of Jesus as a grumpy, dour, gloomy person. We see very many representations of him in churches, either on the crucifix or looking very serious. But I think it's important to remember that Jesus was probably a very witty person. He told clever stories. He told parables that had ironic twists in them. He told stories that had surprises in them. The problem is sometimes we overlook some of these stories. Take the story of the parable of the talents. Remember that story where a rich person gives one of his servants 5 talents, another servant 3 talents, another servant 1 talent? Well, at the end of the story, the servants come back and they present their master with the talents that they have invested. The one who had 5 makes 5 more. The one who had 3 makes 3 more. The one who had 1 doesn't invest it at all. Now, that parable is often used as an example of how we need to use our gifts, right? And that's a very important part of the story. However, what we overlook sometimes is that back in the day, in first century Palestine, people would have understood that story a little differently. A talent during that time was the equivalent of 5 years' worth of wages. So when the rich man is given his first servant 5 talents, he's giving him the equivalent of 75 years of wages. That's a kind of crazy, ridiculous amount of money. It would be like someone saying, I'm going to give you $1 million. Now, the point of what I'm saying is that the listeners in Jesus' time would have probably seen that as a kind of absurd amount, sort of a silly amount. And what's Jesus doing? In addition to conveying a certain truth with the parable, he's also using a little humor. You can imagine people at the time saying, hey, did you hear that story about the guy that gave his servant $1 million? It's a little over the top. It's a little ridiculous. Jesus was not above using a little exaggeration, a little ridiculousness in his stories. He had a little bit of wit about him. So I think it's important to see Jesus not only as a preacher of the truth, but someone who knew human nature, someone who could use humorous stories to his benefit, and someone who could add a little wit to life. So I think it's important to recover this notion of a witty Jesus, a clever Jesus, and a humorous Jesus in our own lives. This is Father Jim Martin. God bless you.